I've got a question for you. How did a medieval porridge, with meat and wine, turn into the flaming, boozy showstopper at the heart of Christmas dinner? Let's time travel. In the Middle Ages, the dish wasn't pudding at all. It was frumenty, cracked wheat simmered in broth or milk, bits of meat, dried fruit, a splash of ale, a splash of wine. It was practical, hearty, and made to last in a cold winter with fasting days and few fresh ingredients. By the 15th and 16th centuries, frumenty thickened and morphed into plum pottage. Plum didn't mean plums. It meant any dried fruit, raisins, currants, prunes, and it was sweetened by the rising tide of sugar flowing into England. The expanding empire brought spices, nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, plus citrus and more sugar. Suddenly, this wasn't just survival food, it smelled like celebration. Then came the 17th century and the Puritans. They cracked down on Christmas feasting, seeing rich, spiced dishes as temptations. Pudding was denounced, and the season itself was suppressed. But food traditions are stubborn. People kept their recipes and their memories. When the monarchy returned, so did the party. There's even a story, maybe apocryphal, that King George V asked for plum pudding in 1714, giving it a royal boost. Now, cue the Victorians. If you picture Christmas as holly, carols, and blazing puddings, that's the 1800s speaking. Cookery writers like Eliza Acton and Mrs. Beeton locked in the formula: sweat, flour, breadcrumbs, eggs and treacle, mountains of dried fruit, spices, citrus zest, and booze. Steam it low and slow, douse it in brandy, set it alight. The pudding became a centerpiece and a ritual. Here's where the magic hits the mixing bowl. On Stir-Up Sunday, the last Sunday before Advent, a line from the Church of England prayer book nudged families into the kitchen. Everyone took a turn stirring east to west, said to honor the journey of the Magi, and made a wish. A silver coin inside promised luck to whoever found it. The holly evoked the crown of thorns, the blue flame hinted at light in darkness. So how did it survive? 3 reasons. First, adaptability. When sugar was scarce, people used treacle. In wartime, they stretched it with carrots, potatoes, breadcrumbs, still a pudding, still a celebration. Second, empire and trade made its flavors global. Mediterranean fruits, Caribbean sugar, Asian spices. Yet the ritual kept it unmistakably British. Today's pudding is sweeter, richer, and proudly theatrical, but it still preserves what's precious, carries it through winter, and shares it at the year's brightest moment. Next time the pudding arrives, remember its 600 years of history. A medieval survival trick turned Victorian spectacle, kept alive by prayer, politics, empire, and family hands. Make a wish, take a spoon, and taste time itself.